promotions in 5 years to go out to the Premiership. It's some achievement, you know. When you're looking back at it, it might seem easy, but it was tough going, and that's where you need, again, your characters. You should never be stale or never be afraid to make changes. So you do have that weight of expectation, if you like.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the PSA Podcast. Today we are delighted to have former Newry City Manager Darren Mullen on the show. Darren, you're very welcome.
Thanks very much, Seth.
Darren was one of the founder members of the club 10 years ago, and he has managed the club ever since, and we're delighted to have him on. He's just recently stepped down as a Newry Manager, and we're looking forward to hearing what he has to say.
Sounds a bit strange, that former Newry Manager.
Darren, just before we get started into the more current stuff, you had a role in the club before it folded. Could you just kind of tell us how you got involved in the club and what kind of your role was before it was newly formed as a new club?
Yeah, I think it was about maybe 2009. I'd started coaching the kids, 5 and 6 year olds, just out in the back pitch, along with fella Marty McGuigan. Marty was a scout for Spurs, and I would have played a bit of football with him at Bestbrook many years ago. And I met him in the shopping centre, and he asked me did I want to do a bit of coaching. I think it was sort of semi-retired from, I had been playing for Windmill up until then, and I was 36 or something time, and he said, do you fancy doing a bit of coaching? So I just thought, give it a go. Started coaching the 5 and 6 year olds out the back, moved then to coaching the 3G pitches, and then moved into academy manager. From there, looking after the academy, and then moved from the academy manager. Pat McGibbon was managing the first team then, and the club got relegated, and Pat took over, and I think there were only 3 or 4 players at that stage. Mm-hmm. So I organised a friendly with all the local lads. We got the best players out of the Academy League to come down, and Pat got the pick of those. You had Rambo, Dingo, Cusey, Carville, you got some really good lads out of that. So I became involved with Pat and the coaching team there. I managed the reserves, and then was also along with Pat at times the first team whenever I wasn't with the reserves. So it just really developed from there. And then Pat had obviously left towards the end of the 2012 season, and I had put my name in the hat for first team manager, and it was agreed that I'd become manager, and then we were wound up, and the rest is history.
So you've been involved in Newry, right from the little kids right through to the first team. Whenever you were kind of getting towards the first team job and the whole winding up thing happened, how did that kind of happen? What was the feeling around the place? Obviously it wasn't very good, but how did that kind of take place?
There were rumours sort of in the background that things maybe weren't well. There was obviously a court case going on with the previous manager and directors at the time. We didn't know the full ins and outs of it, and then the time we got at this stage, I was waiting to be announced as manager, but we couldn't until we get this sorted, and then I became more involved in that stage and found out a bit more about it. So I realised the severity of it and started getting the politicians involved, and they contacted the FA on our behalf and went to them and said, no, it's too late here. Or at that stage they were saying it was too late to organise the meeting here with the IFA as well, and representatives. That didn't go according to plan, and we end up then wound up, and I suppose at that stage there was a lot of devastation then, because you're trying to keep things together because there's a hope we can get back in some form. And even in fairness to the Mid-Ulster at the time, I remember Paul Suckling had contacted me and said, look, we'll try and get you in the Intermediate B now. There's only 5 or 6 games maybe had gone at that stage, and I tried to keep everybody, but it was too much of a mess at that stage. We just said, okay, right, we'll take in the chin and try and build it up from there.
So as soon as you just kind of went under, was it straight back at it, or was there a little bit of downtime and a bit of time for reflection and planning, or were you just saying, right, let's get straight at it straight away?
It was straight at it straight away, and to be honest, at that stage it was me and my own. I just took it upon myself at that stage, because I think there was, I suppose, a sense of devastation and it took the wind out of a lot of people. There wasn't that energy, if you like, that I maybe had, because I wanted to become first team manager, and I had that energy ready to go. So I still kept that energy, if you like, where others maybe were deflated at the time. So from then on, I dealt with the receivers and the politicians and people that were owed money, probably for the next 2 months, to get it going, get everything wiped, get it going again, get new constitution, organise a couple of meetings then with fans and other people, just to bring them up to speed to what we were doing. Then we had to make a decision: do we want to go into Mid Ulster? We spoke to Ballymena District League as well and other ones, and also made an inquiry about playing down south at that stage. Anything was open to it, but it was unanimously, look, we'll start back in Mid Ulster. And from then on, once we got everything wiped and cleared, I remember the day speaking to the guy, the receiver, I forget his name, but he was a decent fella at the time, and speaking to him, and I'd said, look, is that sort of Newry City AFC good to go? And he said, yeah, that's it, everything good to go, everything's wiped. And the last part was a rates bill that we couldn't get cleared, and myself and Eric Wilson and the late Tommy was secretary down here. Tommy went down to Stormont, and we met, and Sammy Wilson was the Storm Minister at the time for Feinster, and he agreed to clear it at the time. So that was it. We came out of that meeting, says us good to go, and then organised the meeting, and then you're galvanising people. Once people could see that there was a bit of momentum and it was going to happen, and they'd probably got over the deflation of it. It's not that people didn't want to help. I think it just knocked the wind out of them. But once we got to that stage, then there was a big groundswell of help and confidence that we could do something positive then.
So you've got everything cleared, you're kind of on the right track. What's the first steps you made then till getting a team sorted? Because you obviously have fantastic facilities, you were on the right track, but you had no team. What was the kind of first steps you made of actually getting the team together?
I suppose contacted a few from before, because I was a 20s manager, the reserves at the time. I would have known what was coming through, and then I'm local, so I would have known who the best talent were at that age. You're getting lads signed, but it wasn't a multitude of players that you could pick from at that stage, because we already cherry picked them, if you like, for the previous part, and a lot of those players then had gone to Warren Point. So we had trials. We held trials here. It was myself and Jervis, so an uncle of mine was involved in the coach staff, Jervis McCall, Raimi Burns and Mickey Keenan. Obviously the four of us, we were the coach staff then, so we organised trials here. Some good, some not so good. But it's what we had to do, and we get some good lads out of it, and that's just where we pulled the squad from. But even the week before the season started, we had one of the lads who was a centre half was doing nets for us until we got Peter Murphy. I think the week before the season started, with the goalkeeper. So that was the reality of it. It wasn't as if there was a load of people running to play for Newry City at that stage, because I think people thought, look, this is going to take a long time here. They might never get back. But look, we believed that we could, and those were the steps that we had to take to get through together.
And you're starting off in Intermediate B, and you're starting pretty much from scratch. What was the goals? What were the objectives? Was it to get Newry back to where they were before, or was it just to get a team out and just to see what it took you?
I suppose initially just to get the team out, but then you had it in your head, okay, right, we'll give it 3 years to get out of Mid Ulster. Intermediate B, you're hoping, okay, look, we could give us a real good rattle here. Intermediate A, was and still is a tough league to get out of. So we knew that was going to be tough. Obviously went through the Intermediate B, playing well, got the best of the players that we could get at that stage, and all playing for nothing. And continued to play for nothing for, I think it was over 5 or 6 years or whatever it was. But giving ourselves a chance to get into Intermediate A then in the 2 years. So that was the initial plan. But probably long term, you're thinking, okay, in 10 years time, can we be back as an established Premiership club?
And you got out of Intermediate B first time with Aston?
First go, yeah.
And then you got into A. Did you have to do much changing to the team? Did you have to do much strengthening to the team? Or what, as you went up the leagues, what was the things you noticed that were maybe of a better standard, or did you have to adjust your playing staff?
We went into Intermediate A the first year, We just weren't good enough then and I realised that stage, okay, the type of people that you need, not just ability wise, the character wise as well, because it's a tough league. You need strong characters in that there. And you had Mully come in, and Sean McMullen did brilliant for us. Big Carville came in then, and you had that physical end of it, which suited. Ian Kern was playing, my own brother Neil were playing, so we'd lads who could play football but could handle themselves as well, and you need that at intermediate A, because it was a tough league. And Chris McMahon, only 19, he was the captain at the time. So good personalities that I realised, okay, the mistakes we made in the first year in intermediate A, or what we didn't have, we fixed it for the second, and then I think we were only beat once when we won the intermediate A.
And into intermediate A and then into Championship 2, or was it PIL at the time?
I think it might have been Championship 2 at that stage. 2. Yeah.
Do you think then people seen the momentum was gathering, Newry were kind of on their way back, and that kind of maybe drew more people in, maybe drew more interest?
Yeah, once you get back to that level of football, it does. You're back in Irish League football, if you like. And in fairness, the Mid-Ulster was very good for us. We made a lot of good friends and had some great memories, and that's what you had to do. Like, we didn't go into it thinking, we're in Newry City, we don't deserve to be here. And we did. We were starting from scratch, so we never went in with any arrogance or anything like that. And it was only on the last day we were beat by Folly Rangers in the cup final. We were going for the treble and we were beating the last cup final, and they won it, but I was the only person that knew we were going straight up without a playoff, because there was no other clubs that were eligible to go up. So even though we'd beaten the cup final, we celebrated that night, obviously come back up in, and then you're going up into a level of football which is, it is a step up. But we went into it and hit the ground running. I think Miola, here we were 3-0 up and ended up 3-2, which was a wee bit of a warning for us, but we hit the ground running and did well. And at that stage there was a documentary was done on that season. It was dedicated to my late father, and I won a couple of awards. So it was a terrific season, just being back in Irish League football. It felt different because you're into Irish League grounds. Obviously the crowds became bigger, and that's no disrespect to Mid-Ulster, but it was just a different level.
And even from a personal point of view, you took over the team and you brought yourself coaching wise from youth football right through, even from your own coaching side of it. How were you dealing with coming up against better teams, coming up against experienced managers? How did you kind of adjust throughout the process? I suppose, even if you go back to me coaching with the 5 and 6 year olds, and you're related even to what Gary Neville said about Valencia, where he had no coaching hours, he didn't have his coaching voice. I went in and coached 5 and 6 year olds and drills, and some of the things you're doing, and you're maybe making mistakes, you're realising, look, this isn't good for them, they're not enjoying it. You're learning even from that, and I would encourage anybody that wants to get into coaching to go and do that. That gives you your coaching hours and your coaching voiceover and your techniques. So you're carrying that and you're building it up as you go along. And then I started doing my coaching badges, and you have an interest in the tactical end of it. So you're even at that level, you're still dealing with teams that are playing different formations. So you're setting up your sessions, your coaching sessions to suit to play against that. And you've obviously your tactics and that set out. It becomes more. I love that end of it, the coaching and the tactical end of it. At that level, you haven't upped your game. Not only the players up in the game, but also me as a manager having to up my game as well as the coaching staff to play against somebody who's playing a different formation than maybe what you've come up against. So you're into Irish League football. You're into the top 3 tiers. Was it just a quick sail through? It was promotions briefing quick into Championship 1.
It looks like that on paper, but nothing was ever plain sailing there. It was difficult. I think it was Donegal Celtic had run us close that year in terms of getting to the playoff, and then we had a chance here. We had to beat Limavady, had won it that year, and we had a chance to beat them here. They needed to win the league, and they did beat us, which meant we were in the playoff then. But we went into the playoff, and so Armagh would have fancied themselves. They had been in around near the Premiership, were doing well, close to that time, and we beat them 4-0 here, and then beat them 3-1, beat them 7-1 in aggregate. It was brilliant. We beat them well, and then you're going into obviously again a higher level of football into the Championship, and it wasn't always plain sailing, to get to that, because it is a really tough league, and it still is a really, really tough league. And getting to that, to obviously the playoff again, and even before you get into that, people are telling you, look, the Premiership team's always is very. I think it's only yourselves and Glenavon so many years ago had been the team from the Championship to beat Premiership team, or maybe more in point or something better. But we knew it was going to be difficult. But again, we won it. I think it was 6-3 on aggregate. But when you're looking back at it, it might seem easy, but it was tough going. And that's where you need, again, your characters and keep adding to it. You should never be stale or never be afraid to make changes. And that's the thing that you have to do as a manager. People don't see is what's probably what's called the difficult conversations, in terms of telling players, look, you've done brilliant for me, but we're stepping up a level here, and I think you're not going to get as much game time, or bringing somebody else in. Those are the conversations you have to keep evolving, and we've done that, in fairness, because I'd say probably you could have maybe 4 or 5 different teams, if you like, in that 10 years. It wasn't just it was the same bunch of players that kept us going. You kept having to add to it all the time and know what needs fixed. But yeah, when you sit back and look at it, 4 promotions in 5 years to get back to the Premiership, it's some achievement, for the whole group.
And you said there about the difficult conversations. That's probably more like down the management side of it. You said earlier about the coaching side that you enjoyed. Did you have to get used to more man management side of it? Did that come more natural to you, or did you maybe struggle with that side of it? Or how did you find dealing with players in a negative way?
Look, you never court confrontation, but in football you're going to get that, and it's how you deal with it. I've learned to be, if you're completely honest, then that makes a difference, because players mightn't want to hear what you're telling them, but if you're bluffing them or stringing them along, you're only creating a problem for yourself. There's been over the years maybe a couple of lads that just didn't fit in with the change rooms, and you're having to cut them, or realising it's not working out, and cut them for the greater good. If you're afraid to have those conversations, or you're not fit to do them, then management isn't for you. You have to do that, and that's where you'll even hear some of the coaches that say, like, sometimes on a Thursday night it's nearly like a therapy session, where you have dealing with players where they're not happy, they're not playing, or they're not in the squad, and you have to have those, because if you don't have the conversations, or you don't communicate with them, then you're creating problems as well. You have to have them. That's one thing I'd give advice to any aspiring coach or manager. Deal with things early, in the right manner. You don't have to be aggressive, you don't have to be any way ignorant about it. It's just dealing in the right manner, telling them straight, because players do appreciate just being honest with them. As I said before, they mightn't like what you're hearing, but they're going away knowing, right, okay, he doesn't fancy me, or he doesn't think I'm, and players can go away then and prove you wrong or whatever. It's just my opinion as manager. Everybody's got their own. So
you've reached the Premiership, 4 promotions in 5 seasons. Were you happy just to go and have a taste of it, or did you want to stay? You obviously wanted to stay there, but did you feel this is where we belong, or were you kind of dipping your toe in and see what it was like, or were you happy just to throw yourself in at it?
No, just throw myself in, because even we were here in the going back to the Carrick here playoff here, we were getting beat 2-0 after 9 minutes, and you're thinking, you're not going to get a chance to manage the Premiership here, in the hometown. All sorts going in your head, and then we pulled it back and did absolutely well, and you're going to the Premiership, and I was never one for standing admiring what we've done. You're just continuously moving forward, because you have to, and you're getting ready for the Premiership. And we went in, and I know we ended up getting relegated, but we were never hammered or looked out of our depth or anything like that. We hadn't got the squad of players needed to stay at that level. But once you're in it and you enjoy doing it, then that's where you want to be. Because it is in terms of your video analysis, your tactics, the coaching, everything has to step up from it, and that's the part that I like. You're dealing with 4 or 5 different formations. They're maybe changing formation in a game. You're having to adapt that on the sideline, and the lads that have been very good in terms of the players and the coach staff to help you in that regard. So yeah, look, it was a case of, right, we're in here, we deserve to be here, and this is where we want to stay. I don't want to go back to any other level. This is the level I want to be at.
And even though you did get relegated the first season, what did you learn from that season? What did you take away from that first year back in the Premiership?
You need a goal scorer. If you need somebody to put it in the back of the net, and that's no disrespect to the lads we have. We just didn't score enough goals, because I remember even we were playing live on Sky on a Monday night against Cliftonville, and we went 1-0 up, and they ended up beating us 4-1. I think it was Steve Lummis and Roy Walker had been the commentators, and they said, look, if you had a striker, you would have been 4-0 up there. We created a load of chances and just didn't take them, and that was a common theme that I didn't want happening this time as well. Playing well, creating chances and not taking them, and then conceding. And I think because in both boxes in the Premiership, we were getting punished. Either if you don't take your chances, and then you have the quality of the opposition in the other in your own box. Then so that was something to learn. Just making sure we had a better squad this year. We had more firepower about us, more pace. We had a better squad. And ultimately I proved to be right, staying in the Premiership.
So you get relegated. Unfortunately, you get relegated from the Premiership back down to Championship 1. Did you manage to keep the group of players together? Was there anybody that maybe wanted to go back to a Premiership level, or were they all happy to chip in and try and get the team? I assume the objective was to get straight back to that level again. Yeah,
we kept most. Some had left, maybe 4 or 5, which will always happen at the end of the season anyway. And we brought a couple of lads in, and I think before COVID hit, we might have been sitting 4th or 5th. We wouldn't have been good enough to go back up. So again, and that's one thing you keep having to do, is to keep evolving and take a wee step back and look, okay, what did I do wrong as manager? What can I fix as manager? Where do we need to strengthen? And that's, to do that again. But obviously the COVID thing lasted a lot longer than people thought, and everyone was put in the back burner. But you're using that time then to look about and see who you can get or who you can add whenever it does go back.
So COVID then came back, or COVID then left, thankfully, and you get a proper rattle at Championship, and you get back into the Premiership again.
Yeah, just built a really good squad. Then we got some really good signings in there. We had Ryan McGivern come in with us. We had Stevie Maguire back. We had Thomas Lockhart had come in. Big Mark Kelly had come in first. Mark had been in before. But yeah, real good mix, good characters. That strength that I spoke about, the physical strength as well as the ability, and a real good squad. And we had the ground running. We were the best team from day one. Looked as if we were going to coast it, and then went in a bit of a poor run and picked it up again, and won it on the last day of the season. But that was a really good squad, and obviously winning the Championship rather than through the playoff this time was nice to win it. So you're going up as champions, and apart from needing a goal scorer or improving on your goals, you're going into the Premiership second time around more prepared. You were going in, probably you knew what you were going into a bit more. Was there any other things that you thought the squad needed or the coaching staff needed? Or I suppose you're getting a bit more of the video analysis. Maybe it kicked in by that stage. You're a couple of years on and you're getting more of that, so you're having to prepare a lot more. It's not just a Tuesday and Thursday night you're training. I'm looking at games on a Monday night, a Wednesday night or a Friday night. Should it be our own games or the opposition games? It's constant. You're looking at that information and dealing with that then on a Tuesday and Thursday, because that's all you have the lads for. And that's where there is a massive gulf in the Premiership, and has got bigger from the first time. We have people like Larne and Glentoran, full time, and it's great, brilliant. Fair play to them. It would be great if everybody could do that, but the reality is, we couldn't do it. We hadn't the finances, so you're trying to be smarter, if you like, and maximise the time you do have with the lads. So we went in with a better squad. As I said, more of an attacking threat throughout the team, and yeah, we played some really good football and some good games this year, and thankfully stayed up.
And just on the league as a whole, because obviously you've been around the Irish League for a long time, how do you think it's changed from maybe the last 5 or 6 years? What do you think, just personally, do you think the differences are?
Well, you can see a lot more professionalism in it, more attention to detail in it. More teams that are even part-time trying to go as full-time as they can. I feel like it's not just a Tuesday and Thursday, it's getting them in maybe 3 or 4 nights a week, recovery sessions with them. There's more emphasis on what they're doing outside of it as well, looking after them. But it's, the finances end of it, or that'll always be the case, should it be Irish League or English Premiership, whatever it might be. The teams that have the most money tend to achieve the most, unless you're Chelsea. Basically Chelsea fans among us, but that's just the nature of it. We have to work smarter. Now Gary's problem, if you like. Gary stepped in, he'll have to deal with all that, because you are juggling the end of it. I mean, even towards the start of the season last year, we hadn't got a main sponsor, you know, and you're having to do, like I did a video at the time, you know, asking for a main sponsor, and thankfully within a day we did. The HMT guys come on and they've signed another 2-year deal, which is great. So you can, although there's a massive difference in the gap, I can see a massive difference from where we have come from 10 years ago until now. You know, we should be looking at it like an established Premier League club rather than a yo-yo club, you know. But yeah, it's been some journey. You can see a lot of change, and it's probably only this past 2 or 3 weeks now that I've sit to reflect on things, because, as I said, I wasn't one for looking back and whatever. You're continuously looking forward, and now you're getting more time to think back on what we achieved.
So you get in the Premiership for the second time, which is the season just gone. The main objective was obviously to stay there.
Yeah, it was just stay. The start of the season, we said, look, we stay there and hopefully get a couple of good runs and give the Mid-Ulster Cup run. I hadn't won it in the 10 years. We'd beaten the final and beaten semi-finals. So that's one that I would like to have won. So it worked out ideal in that regard, winning the Mid-Ulster Cup and staying up. For me, that's a very successful season. And again, as I've said before, it's just the right time for me to go then. I'd probably been thinking about it for a while, because, say, 14 years at the club and 10 years here, and you don't really get a break within that, because you're thinking of pre-season, signing players, whatever. Your head's never clear, if you like. So I just thought, yeah, that's a good time to go.
So at what point in the season were you thinking, this could possibly be my last season? Was it towards the end where the Mid-Ulster Cup and Premier League safety was confirmed, or was that in your head maybe throughout the year?
Oh, it's right from the start of the season. I had said to my wife, I think this season will do me, because it's non-stop. You know, people said, why you quit? You know, we kept in the Premiership, but people don't understand. You know, even speaking to Gary lately, you know, he now knows the difference between an assistant manager and a manager. You know, over the past 2 weeks, there's a lot more things that he wouldn't have been dealing with, or I was, and now he knows the difference in it. But he's coming into that with that energy, and he'll do well. He's a good lad. But people don't realise the amount of work that's involved in it, and it's not only the work that's involved in it; it's the impact that it has on you. Because I'm local, I'm managing my local team. You know, should you have a defeat, people are talking, you know, to you, should it be in the shop or downtown? And it was never a case of, you know, when we won it was great. Mm-hmm. I want everybody to talk to me about it, and then I don't want to speak about it. So that's, you know, I didn't mind. I'll speak to anybody about football, but you carry the weight of that expectation and the hope, because you know the people involved. You know, my mates are in the stand sitting watching, our relatives are in the stand, and that can carry a huge burden. So you know, people wanted us to stay in the league. You know the importance of it, because it affects the academy as well as the first team. You know, I know the ripple effect that would have of not staying in the Premiership right throughout the club. So you do have that weight of expectation, if you like, and you know, to keep the club in the Premiership, win the Mid-Ulster Cup. I thought, right, okay, look, I've done my bit here. It's time for somebody else. And
whenever you approached the club, told them, the various people, was there any fight back against you? Was it just accept it? Did you have to convince people that this was the end, or did they just take it as your word? No, look, they tried to talk me out of it at the start. You know, even from the coaching staff and that as well. They say, look, you not stay on, but I suppose then they could see as well, you know, the strain it does have as a manager. So it got to the point where, like, yeah, okay, right, fair enough. Darren has made his peace with it and his mind up, whatever. So I want you to give him plenty of notice to deal with that. They were just working on behind the scenes to make sure the succession, if you like, was smooth. So, you know, whilst they did initially, they realised, look, you know, he's made his decision and deserves to go out in that manner. So how do you look back on your time at the club? I suppose we've been doing that maybe for the past couple of weeks, looking back on it, and there's different memories of going back. And even there was a guy had done all my stats, John, local fella, and he sent me in through all the wins. It was 198 out of 372, whatever it was, and he sent me through a list of it. And it's just when you see it, it triggers different memories of different games and different leagues you've been in. I suppose you look back at it with a serious amount of pride, considering where we were and what happened.
you know, and it's great that there's a documentary in there that does show what happened and behind the scenes of what happened. That's great to look back on. But yeah, a huge amount of pride, if you like, probably, you know, beyond anything I could have dreamt of in terms of what we had done, because I always remember Warren Point beating Donegal Celtic in the playoff and seeing the scenes there, and Barry getting interviewed, and the lads had been here playing for them, and thinking how great it was, and you're thinking, yeah, okay, I'll just keep, that's the image I want to have in my head, you know, for me to get interviewed doing the same. And I remember even that night at Carrick getting interviewed, and it was just completely surreal, because like, this is what I've been dreaming of now for the past, you know, 5 or 6 years, and now it's actually happening. So yeah, serious amount of pride from that. Probably a case of how did you manage it all when you think back and look at it, how do you fit it all in. But when you're in the middle of it, you just do it. You know, it's like my wife would say, we have 4 daughters, and Dan would say to me, how do we do it when they were younger? When you're in the middle of it, you don't realise, you just get on with it. And it wasn't the same in the football. You were just continuously looking forward. You know, we never stopped to pat ourselves in the back. We didn't have that kind of change room. We had great characters, said Jervis, Mickey, you know, Burnsy, and then Gary jumped in, and Dame McCurry and Damon Hill, and all real good people, really. And when you have good people, for me, it attracts that other good people, and we've been lucky that way. It's been a good club. To, you know, Dorothy was involved in Gaff, and good people. So I suppose not only in terms of the football aspect and the success, but the people we brought to the club and the atmosphere would create. Anybody coming now would say to you, Newry's a real good club, good place to be about, like that. So yeah, I suppose you look back on it with a lot of pride on it, and that'll maybe continue for a while, and then see what happens after that.
If you could pick a couple of highlights of the 10 years, what would your couple of highlights be?
Look, probably the night I announced to everybody that Newry City AFC were officially formed. There's a big cheer in the club in there from the fans. Then on the pitch, you're going to Broomhedge, the first game. You're seeing the lads run out in kit, because we had an old kit. We had the old kits, and we had to change the Newry City FC to Newry City AFC. We had to add that in because it was a different entity then, if you like. That first game, then obviously your first league title, and the playoff games, I mean, they were brilliant. You know, it's great winning a title, but a playoff, you know, there's more drama, if you like, with that. A great build up. You know, seeing all the Newry fans down in Carrick that night. Those are the memories of the playoff, and then obviously getting back to the Premiership. There's loads within there, but those those initial ones that you remember. So
your assistant manager's now taking over.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got any words of advice or anything you would say to him, what would be the first thing that would spring to mind?
Don't put so much pressure on yourself. That's something that I have done. That's something I'd look back on. You know, there's only, it gets to the point where you realise as a manager, there's only so much you can do. If I put on a good session on a Thursday night, and after, and you're seeing the players go, kids, everybody know their role, and you've done everything you can as a manager, then you can do no more. You know, so you need to realise that after a game, if you've been beat, you know, not to beat yourself up so much. I would have been one for beating myself over, and you realise, look, I couldn't have done any more, and you look back on it. You know, as long as you're preparing in the right manner during the week, the rest will take care of itself. So that would probably be the main one. Which, look, I've been speaking, you know, Seth and Gary get on well. I was speaking to him today. You know, he's his own man. I'll be there if he needs any advice, but you know, he'll develop his own style and his own way of going.
And I suppose a question that I've heard even a lot of people say as well this last few weeks, what's next? Is there a what's next, or are you just taking a break, or you hear the rumour mills, Darren Mullen's doing this or such and such is doing that? You know, what is there a next move, or?
No, and there never was. Never. It was just a case of, okay, that's me for now. You know, I have no immediate plans around. You know, could end up coming down and watching the lads in pre-season their games or whatever. You don't know what's there, but I haven't retired. I've retired from Newry, but I haven't retired from coaching. You know, I'm 50. I'd like to think I've plenty left in the tank in terms of the coaching and management. It doesn't need to be managing, you know, because you're thinking, do I want to go into management and deal with all that comes with it? You know, because people don't realise what comes with it, what you're dealing with players, because you are it's like a psychiatrist as well as a football manager, and you know, an agony aunt at times, and that's the nature of it, and you have to be like that because of what you're dealing with. If you're not if you're not dealing with those issues, then you're not going to get the best out of your players. You had to be fit to deal with that end of it. But I don't know, I'll just wait and see. I'm back playing now. I started back training with non-Ireland over 50s. I was down with them because I played a bit for the over 40s. In between, I was being wound up, and I went and played for a couple of years. So it was on the Tuesday night I'd announced my retirement, and Steph and my wife were driving down to watch my daughters playing camogie, and I came up in the car. Yosser Hughes, non-Ireland over 40s manager, because I had him in stores on the 40s, and my wife's like, "Why is he ringing you?" He says, "You only announced last night that you're retiring, and he's ringing you the next night." So he was laughing the next day, and I said to him, so there's a bit of a tournament on now next month, so I said I would train away and play for that. So, but all I'm not, no, I honestly don't know. I'm not sitting around waiting for a phone call. I'll wait and see what happens. It's not every job that I'd be interested in, or people would be interested in me for whatever, but I would like to get back into the coaching end of it, when I'm on the sideline. I like having that impact, if you like, in terms of coaching players or whatever. So we'll just wait and see. I've done my pro license. I can go no far in terms of the coaching end of it. We'll just see what happens. No master plan. Whatever's out there for me will happen.
Brilliant. Well, on behalf of PSA, we thank you for coming on, and we wish you and Newry City Football Club all the best for the future.
Good man. Thank you.
Thank you.